Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Patholkis, and this is Watchmen, Season 1, Episode 5, Little Fear of Lightning. Um, Before I get started here, let me take care of some business first, and then we'll get into things. If you like what you see here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and subscribe. If you want to know when I'm going to be on again next, you can hit the bell down below there. If you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go to the bell settings, get as many or little notifications as you want. Also, it's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you when I'm coming on live. So best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at my schedule. It's up there. It changes every week. And I also put it on my Facebook page. And I also have a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and talk amongst yourselves. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram. I also have a Patreon page, but there's no tiers set up as of yet. There will be at the end of this year, beginning of next year. So let's get into this, huh? Spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Go on, come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the new paddle. Yes. All right. So, where are we here? This episode wasn't that bad, I have to admit. And that's because it focused on somebody. We got a little bit of backstory about what's happening in the world. This was actually fairly good because we got to fill in some gaps of this world by actually you've heard no insights yet on this one, Stanley. That's good. Um, and it's all about Looking Glass is really what it was. This was all about Looking Glass. This is something we could have used earlier on, quite honestly, to set the tone of what this world was or is. And someone actually mentioned in the comment section of the last video, why do I keep bringing up Mr. Robot in this as well? It's because the two actually are fairly similar in that there is a date, an actual date of a trauma that happened to this world that actually dictates how this world is and what is going on in this world. And that is their common thread. They're also both alternate realities too, as well. So there is a method to my madness. There is a reason why I talk about some things in other groups as well. So as usual, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap and then go into a review here at the end. So we open up in Hoboken, 1985, with some guys, kids getting off of a bus. They're all dressed alike, and you know that's no good at that point because it usually means Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons or something like that. But anyway, they're there to pass out some religious literature to as the priest says, it's 1 minute to midnight on the doomsday clock, and everyone needs to know the sinners need to repent. And they've come from Tulsa to Hoboken, New Jersey to uh, get people to repent. And we see a young Wade is among them. And as the priest says to young Wade, he says, "A minute to midnight, Wade, tick tock." Yeah. Uh, and he approaches some punks out in the street, and before he can get his literature out there, they're going to beat the shit out of him. One steals his tie, the other one knocks all his pamphlets out of his hand, and it's only a girl that saves him and says, "You know what? Come with me." Basically, come with me if you want to live, kind of thing. And he does, and she takes him into the fun house, and then she goes, "Well, is it true? Do you really believe that we're all going to die?" And he says, "Yeah." He goes, "The Russians, they're probably going to launch their nukes. We're going to launch our nukes. Probably going to die." And she goes, "Well, are you still a virgin?" And he's like, "What?" She goes, "Have you ever slept with anybody?" And he's like, "No." And she starts undressing him in the fun house, and she takes off his pants, and he goes, I don't want to do this. And she takes off his underwear. She goes, "I think you do," kind of thing. And as he closes his eyes, as she says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you," kind of thing. She grabs all his clothes and tells him, "Fuck you, Bible boy," and runs out. And he's standing there naked except for his socks. Uh yeah, the excellent Wham is what that was, Joe Greer. That was not Howard Jones, that was Wham. Uh that was playing in the background. Careless Whisper, yes. And we end up having he's in looking in the mirror there, and he starts screaming at himself, basically berating himself in the mirror. And then we get this loud screech that happens, and he covers his ears, and then we have the mirror starts shattering around him, and he falls to the ground unconscious. So he wakes up, everything's dark. He's got blood out of his ears, a little bit out of his nose too, and he goes outside to find right outside the door of the fun house the girl who stole his clothes with his clothes. He picks those up, and she's dead in a pool of blood. And there's a lot of dead people that are around there. There's a couple of live people too, and some half dead people at this point. Yeah, some mirror trauma, exactly. And we hear Careless Whisper still playing, but it's slowed down a bit. So it's kind of talking like this a bit as it's going. And he starts screaming out what happened over and over again, just screaming it out. And as we pan back from him, we go into New York City and we start getting New York playing. And we see the giant squid that Osmandius had sent to New York, had transported into New York. So the next thing we see is an ad trying to get people to come back to New York. That New York is empty, and people are hiking in Central Park, and there's nobody else around them. Yes, we did finally get to see the squid. Exactly. That again was an opening money shot. That's what we should have started off this series with, quite honestly. Because when I saw that, I was like, "Holy crap! Why didn't we get that to begin with?" That's what we should have. Should I start watching the show now? It's up to you, Stanley. Quite honestly, it really is. It's up to you on this one. So, the ad is actually pretty funny. They're talking about people hiking in Central Park without bumping into anybody. A cop saying he moved back to New York and he might be out of a job because there's no crime. And then finally we have Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos saying that there's no it's squid free. The only squid they have now they'd like with their lemon, a little bit of lemon in there because he's got some, fried squid. And of course, his focus group. And we see that Wade is actually behind a glass, again, glass, looking glass, that kind of thing. And he is watching the ad execs, and these people that are being part of this focus group. And the ad exec later on are going, "Oh my God, 10 across the board, 10 that we're going to move back, 10 I want to go and visit New York City," and all this stuff. And Wade tells them, he goes, "No," he goes, "they're all lying." He says the thing is they're afraid. He goes, and they don't want to admit their fear. Um, and the ad execs are like, "You're crazy." He goes, "No, I know this." He goes, "I see it." And they're like, "Well, why in the hell are they giving tens?" He says, he goes, 30 years later, people should be over this trauma by now. And he goes, "Well, they're not." And he goes, "And that squid thing at the end, the calamari thing at the end, that was a bad choice," is what he says. Yeah, it didn't help. So we see Lori addressing the cops back at the police headquarters there. And she's telling them, "You know what? Yes, we can't find who the hell the cavalry are, but we can find this church in this picture. There's 5,000 churches around here. Start searching them." She goes, "Find out which one it is. When we find that, we'll find the cavalry." Excuse me. So Sister Night goes over and asks Looking Glass if his ex got a lead on the pills, and she hasn't yet. And he goes, "Can you tell her that's fucking important?" You know? And that's when Lori calls in Mirror Guy. She goes, "Hey, Mirror Guy, get in here." And he does. He comes in, and she goes, she's looking at his records, and she goes, you joined up just after White Knight." And he's like, "Yeah." So we're getting a sense here that Wade is a joiner of things. He's a joiner of groups. He's a joiner of causes, if you will. And she goes, "Oh, well, fuck, you were in New York at the time." He goes, "No, I was in Jersey during 11/2 is when it happened." And she goes, "Oh, how do you sleep?" And he goes, "I sleep great." And she goes, "Oh yeah, well, I think you would using that reflectitine as a face, as a mask." She goes, "It blocks psychic blast, doesn't it? And I'm sure you do sleep well at night." And he goes, "That's got nothing to do with it because I have no problems whatsoever." And she goes, "Well, what are the pills about?" He basically she lets him go, and as he's walking out, she goes, "Wait a minute, there is one more other thing I've got to bring in here about. What were the pills about?" And he's like, "What?" "Sister night. She asked you what the pills were." Angela. Wait, I'm sorry. Sister night is what she says. Uh, what were the pills about? And he goes, "What are you talking about?" She goes, Your cactus on your desk. I bugged it." And she goes, "I ever heard this. So what the hell are the pills about?" And he goes, If I talk about it, it's a violation of her medical privacy." Is what he says. Yeah, she did the Columbo thing. I agree with you, Penn. She did the one more thing there that I forgot about. Yeah, that's my bad Columbo impression, by the way, for you guys. So we see he goes home and he's eating beans from a can with the face on. It's supposed to be like Rorschach. We're supposed to be reminded that this is still in the Watchmen universe and that Rorschach isn't there. Um, and his hat, also his baseball cap, is lined with the reflectitine as well that he uses in his day life. Of course, when he gets home, he puts on the full skin mask over the top of him and just kind of rolls it up to his forehead there and is eating while he's watching that American Hero story that basically just looks like porn, is what it is. It looks like gay porn because we have the hood is essentially fucking some guy in the ass, and yeah, it's just a weird moment. All of a sudden, this alarm goes off, and he jumps up out of the chair, pulls off the skin mask, puts on his hat, runs out to the bunker, runs down to the bunker, hits the button, and he's looking at his list, I guess, that he's got. The alarm is still going off. He goes running back into the house, into his closet in the bedroom there, and sees this box that he opens up, and he's trying to shut off the alarm. It's not working. So he just rips out the wire. That doesn't work. He rips it off the wall and just destroys it. So then he's on the phone with his company there that they need to replace that unit. He's been testing it over and over and over again when you're only supposed to test it once every 6 weeks. So he's been over testing this device. And so he wants one overnighted, even though it's going to cost him the same amount as the unit itself. And then we see him going to sleep in the bunker that night, and he pulls the mask over his head and goes to sleep. So we see him in the day job again, and these kids are testing out some sugar cereal that's sugar free at this point, and they say it tastes like nothing. But he gets a page from his ex-wife that to come pick up his pills, and we see that what she does is she clones dogs. She's they've got these three puppies there, and she goes, "Tell me the truth. Do all these dogs look identical?" And he looks at her and goes, "That one's a little bit smaller." She's like, "Ah, shit, you want a dog?" It's like, "What am I going to do with a dog?" And she literally throws it into an incinerator and incinerates the dog. Like, no big deal whatsoever. Yeah. Um, so she tells him that the pills are called nostalgia. And these things are banned. And the reason why they're banned is yes, they bring back memories, but they also bring on psychosis as well. And she goes, who is she? Who are you picking up these pills for?" He goes, what makes you think she's a she? She goes, "There's always a she involved." Because you have your pick of women. You just don't need to pick the ones that or who's going to kick you in the balls. And she goes, "I couldn't even get you to convince you that I wasn't going to steal your clothes and leave you, you know, uh, high and dry there." So she knows all about his background too. So we see Wade going to a group meeting about 11:02, and he's actually leading the this whole thing. And a woman comes in a little bit late, and she takes a seat as this kid is talking about genetic trauma. He wasn't around for the original event. He was born 10 years later, but his mom was in Brooklyn when this thing happened. And he says, basically that he feels that whole trauma is like a genetic trauma and can't get over it either. So, like I said, Wade's leading this whole group, and he leads the pledge about living in this dimension and not living in fear, kind of thing. And this new woman who came into the group is eyeballing him this entire time that she's doing this. And when they leave, she's standing outside by her car, and he tells her, "We have another meeting on Tuesdays as well." And she's like, "Oh, well, I won't be here next week. I won't be here. I won't be coming back next week." She goes, "But you should follow me," which he does. So they have some drinks, and he's talking about his job. And she goes, well, of course those kids didn't like the cereal, didn't have any sugar in it, kind of thing. And he asks her what she does for a living, and she lies twice to test him because basically she tells, he tells her that he can tell if people are lying or not. And she basically tests him twice until finally she tells him that she's a radiologist, and he believes her at that point. And then she goes, you know what, I'm going to go home. I'm a little bit on the drunk side, and you're drunk too. You should call a friend. And he goes, I don't have any friends. So he's calling a cab to take him home. She's waiting outside and flirting with him, of course. And she goes, up, my ride's here. It's a truck. And it looks like a familiar truck, like the truck that we saw in the first episode. And as she gets in and drives off, a piece of lettuce or a head of lettuce falls out of the back of the truck. And Wade freaks out, grabs a head of lettuce, goes running back to his car and radios in to the command post and says, hey, did they ever pick up that truck? They didn't, of course. So he goes to follow them, follows them out to this abandoned mall out in the outskirts of town, and finds out that sees them putting on Rorschach masks and going into the mall itself. He calls it in, of course, over the radio, and they said, okay, we're going to send out a team in a little bit here. And he ends up, of course, going over to the truck, grabbing a gun out of their car, out of the truck itself, and following them inside and looking around. And he finds out where the church is. The church is actually built inside the mall. They built in this big open area there, so it looks like a church. And we hear this little zap, and we hear a basketball come falling out of the ceiling. And one of the cavalrymen comes down to take a look at it to find out where it dropped out, and he hides in the pews and all this stuff. And we find out that the cavalrymen actually have a portal that they are testing out by throwing basketballs into it. It's a teleportation portal. And Wade makes himself known. He's got his gun out, announced himself as Tulsa PD. And she tells him, the woman's there, and she's like, Wade, put the gun down. She goes, I lured you here. We need to show you something. And a guy is sneaking up behind Wade, and he turns around and fires the gun 3 times, and nothing happens. She goes, yeah, we put blanks in the gun just to make sure of what was going on. So they take him over, kind of manhandle him and bring him over, sit him down. And the one guy starts talking to him. Wade's like, why do you still have your face on? You go, you're not even trying to hide your voice, are you, Senator? And we see that Senator Keene Jr. is one of the cavalrymen. Yeah. I kind of put this one together at the beginning when they were showing the flashbacks. I'm like, oh, he's a cavalryman. And that was kind of messed up, quite honestly. And he tells Wade that basically Judd was one of the, he's down there to maintain the peace, kind of like Judd was. Judd was doing his job. So Judd was also a cavalryman. We got that actually confirmed now at this point. And he asks Wade if he knows what they're doing with the teleporter. And Wade says that they're going to drop a squid onto Tulsa because that's what they thought had happened in New York. These guys were testing the teleporter when the squid came. And he goes, no. He goes, tell you what, watch this video. He goes, it's going to change your mind. And he goes, I'm not going to force you to, but you can watch it. And he says, if you do, he goes, I want you to delay Angela. She's, she knows who killed Judd. And I want you to find out, who killed Judd. And I also want you to delay her for a little bit. That's what he says. So Wade ends up watching the video of Adrian Veidt, Osmandius, basically talking to Robert Redford, congratulating him on becoming president in 1992. He recorded this on 11/1/1985, and basically confessing to sending the squid and everything that he has planned out. And basically, what Adrian wanted to do is he wanted to build a utopia in the world, and he has it all planned out. So he's got a couple of hours worth of video that he wants to share with Robert Redford on how to make that happen. Yeah, so we get this whole thing out in the open, and Wade's world is shocked, at this point. So we pan into the video screen, and we get a this pan of goo that Adrian is stirring up, or one of the maids is stirring up. And we see that Adrian is jumping into a spacesuit. He's now ready to travel by catapult out of the prison. And he's all hooked up to oxygen and everything in a big line. And he gets launched, goes outside, and we see that he lands on a moon of Mars, is where he's at. That's where he's being held prisoners, on the moon of Mars. And all the bodies of all the clones that he sent out there are frozen out onto the you know onto the surface there. He starts picking them up and breaking them into pieces to make a spell out some words. And what he writes is "save me," and then I saw a D, but I didn't see what the rest of it was. And he looks up and sees a satellite traveling overhead, and we see the satellite actually zoom in on him, and he starts, cheering that he was able to do it, that he was finally able to reach out to somebody before he gets pulled back in by the warden, the game warden. And the game warden tells him, you were warned about this, and now you have to suffer the consequences. And you're under arrest, is what the game warden says. And he pulls off Adrian's helmet. And Veidt basically tells him, he goes, why are you doing this? He goes, your God has abandoned you. And the game warden's like, yeah, you know what? He has left us, but you know what? I still got a job to do. And he knocks Adrian out. So we see Wade back at his day job and his cop job, and he's just pretty much swimming through the motions at this point. He is in a daze because of everything that he's heard, quite honestly. And he's flashing back on 11/2 and everything that happened when Sister Night calls him on his phone and asks him about the pills. And he asks her, he goes, is anything true? And she's like, what the fuck? And so she gets up and comes over to him, and she's standing right above his cactus and asks him, what the hell are the pills about? Did you find out about the pills? And he tells her the pills are nostalgia. And she wants to know whose memories they are. And Wade offers to help her out. But he needs to know what's going on. And so she finally tells him the truth that, Will is her grandfather, that she found him with Judd's body, that Will told her basically that he killed Judd, and that she covered up everything. And that's when he looks at her and tells her, I'm sorry. And she goes, for what? And that's when Lori comes out of the office with her gun and says, arrest her, of course. And what does Angela do? She grabs a bottle of nostalgia pills and swallows the entire bottle before she gets arrested, and then just asks Wade why as she's getting pulled away. So we see Wade, he gets home, and he leaves his hat with the reflectine in it in the car. And at first he has a new box of the extra dimensional security system that came in, the new one, and he throws it in the garbage, and he thinks better of it, and he grabs it and takes it back inside the house. And as he goes back inside the house, we see a black van pull up, knock over that garbage can, and out come a bunch of cavalrymen armed with shotguns. And they're heading towards Wade's house, and that's where we leave off on the episode. So, like I said, if we had started off with something like this, after, of course, Judd's death and everything that sets things in motion, this would have actually primed the audience a little bit more for what this world is about. That's what we wanted to see a little bit more of. We finally got to see the goddamn squid, Um, like I said, Wade is a joiner. He, joined the church group, but he really wasn't too sure about that. You could tell he really wasn't into it. He joined the cops after White Knight. Now he was actually into that, the cop thing that was going on. And also he was into the extra dimensional group as well that he's leading. And sounds like I'm getting into it now, is what you're saying, Stanley. Now that they've actually explained some stuff and set a tone for it, yes, I'm liking where this is going now. I mean, what is this? We're episode 5 now. Is that where we're at? Is that correct? I'm blanking on it as to where it was. Yes, episode 5. So episode 5 of 8. Yeah. So we've got 3 episodes left and 5 of 9, excuse me, thank you. You're sure it's not 7 of 9? No, it's 5 of 9, that's right. Sorry. Bad joke, I know. Uh, so yeah, 4 episodes left. We could have used this a while back, quite honestly, to explain a lot of things, but no, we didn't get that. But now it's a bit better now that this world is fleshed out. We have an idea of why people are freaking out. Why people are so fearful of things, quite honestly. And did Osmandius did he succeed? He stopped a third world war, but he made people so fearful of shit that they're unwilling to take chances now too at this point. Uh Stanley, I liked the leftover, so I think the Lindelof can make good stuff. Yeah. I never watched Leftovers, to tell you the truth, Stanley. I tried and I just couldn't do it. Um, so yeah, it's just I don't know. Is it too little, too late? I don't know. We'll see as this goes along. But like I said, this episode was a lot better because we actually fleshed out the world a bit more about why these people are the way they are. 30 years after the event of what happened in a comic, because it's not the movie, it's the comic that it's based on. Excuse me. So yeah, and I mean, this character too is we see that everything that happened to him because of 11-2, and he even notices it too now that he knows the truth. Basically, his life has been ruined by this, and yeah, it's just I don't know, really kind of messed up. Yeah, Joe, we're talking about Watchmen. We're not talking about anything else over at the moment. So I don't know. I'll see where this goes, quite honestly. And like I said, I'm glad we got the squid finally in this. And having some stuff mentioned like reflectitine, what that is. The stupid thing about him eating out of the can like Rorschach wasn't necessary. We didn't really need that. It seemed really forced, to tell you the truth. And that was the one thing that kind of took me out of it because I saw that and I'm like, oh, really, guys? So you're actually gonna do a callback to that? That's just kind of stupid. Yeah. So where do I stand on this one? I'll give this one a 7.5, maybe even 8 out of 10 on this one, just because it was actually done fairly well. Bring the pitchforks. Thanks, Morks. Yeah. I'm fairly sure there's gonna be more people that are gonna bring out the pitchforks on this one. People really did not like my last review of this series. And I was actually fairly nice, to tell you the truth. I wasn't how I could be on things. So I reined myself in, shall we say. What did you guys think of it? Those of you who watched it there, did you have fun with it, or uh was it kind of Was it did it do anything for you? That's what I want to know. So you think Maid V is a clone of Jeremy Irons' character? Uh, you talking about the Warden, Joe Greer? You think he's a clone of Osmandius? I don't think he's a clone of Osmandius. I think he is. I don't know what he is, to tell you the truth. I don't know if this whole prison was set up with. I mean, yes, it was done by Doctor Manhattan. Of course, it had to have been Doctor Manhattan, and yeah, I don't know, to tell you the truth. If that is something that Dr. Manhattan made, or if Osmandius actually did it to himself to punish himself. because he is the weird kind of guy that would do that. He would make a jailer, if you will, in order to test himself. That's where I'm thinking about. So, Joe, you've been put on timeout. So go and sleep it off, whatever you're doing there. There we go. Yeah, you're being a little distracting, is what's going on. So I will undo that later on tonight, just so you know. There we go. Penn says, I like the episodes with Gene Smart, and this one was unexpectedly good. So there was a little bit of backstory. I forgot to mention this as well. So Lori, the reason why she's working with the FBI is, and this was actually, I read this in an article someplace, so I guess she had to do some extracurricular homework in order to find this out, was that her and Night Owl continued to go out afterwards, after everything was done that had happened in Watchmen, and they continued to go out and bust bad guys even after they weren't supposed to, and they got caught. She decided to work with the FBI in order to work off her time, if you will, so that she wouldn't go to jail. Night Owl said, fuck that, and went to jail. So he's actually in jail right now while she is out in, working with the FBI. I actually didn't do any homework on that one, Penn. Someone had actually put it in an article someplace about Watchmen. And I just think that that would have been some interesting items to tell us inside the story that we're watching, instead of just kind of leaving that there. Uh, Again, there's some missed opportunities. There are some severe missed opportunities in this. Was that in the pedopedia, the pedophilia? I mean, the pedopedia? Yeah. No, it wasn't, Stanley. It was some article that I read. I can't remember where it was. I happened to read it, Penn, because there was something else about that in there, and they had a whole bunch of different things and that listed in it. That's what was good enough for me. Oh, is Lady True a Jeremy Irons clone? No, she is a clone made by him. Because remember, he says early on, when he's talking about the maid and the butler, that he's pulling out how badly they were made, that if they were one of his creations, they would be a lot better. And that's direct. That line is there, so we know that Lady True is one of his clones that he's made. That's the reason why she was able to take over his company, and she's the one that's supposed to get him out of all of that. That's why that message where it said "save me" and then we just saw the D of the name, it was cut off. So we didn't get the full message that he had put out there with the dead bodies. So he was actually calling somebody out by name. And I'm fairly sure it was Lady True, whatever her first name is. No, you know what it is? I know what it is actually now, because her clones are the little girls, right? And we actually know what her name is. Let me go back to my notes here. Nope. Maybe that wasn't a D. Maybe it was Beyond. Is her name. That's the girl, the little girl that grows up to be the clone, the giant clone of Lady True. So yes, he's calling her out by name to save him. Come save him. And there you go. Considering that True Industries, or True, whatever it is the one that have the little telephone booths that you can call Dr. Manhattan and everything. Could it be Dr. Manhattan? I don't think so. I don't think it's Dr. Manhattan, because he knows what Dr. Manhattan's real name is, Stanley. So he would just call him out by his name. He wouldn't call him Dr. Manhattan. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah, like I said, I would give it a 7.5, maybe even an 8 out of 10 on this one. See all you naysayers out there? I can turn around on some of these things. Just as long as it's well written, quite honestly. As long as you explain some stuff to me, you know? The Blue Dong guy, he might have put Blue Dong, you know. I don't know. So, where do we go from here? We still need to find out who killed Judd. Uh, Now we've got Angela with a stomach full of nostalgia pills. So, of course, she's going to relive all of Will's memories now at this point. And we saw that in the trailer for next week, of course. And what else do we have there? Wade, what the fuck's going to happen to Wade? Is he going to die now because he saw that video? And now that we know that Senator Keene is a cavalryman, and so was Judd, that this kind of goes a bit deeper than what we initially thought it was. Some people, Lady True is one of the comedian's kids from Vietnam. Yeah, I don't think it is. I really think she's a clone that Adrian has made. He was far enough along where we saw him doing shit that he wasn't supposed to be doing. A lot of shit that he wasn't supposed to be doing. And to have him make a human clone, I think is not that kind of it's not that far of a stretch. Yeah. I think the comedian, her being the comedian's kid from Vietnam is kind of a stretch because what his Lori she would be about Lori's age then, right? Well, then again, she's getting cloned all the time, so yeah. I'm gonna nix that idea. Her being one of the comedian's kids. She's getting cloned, obviously, because her daughter is her clone. Manhattan saved the baby when the comedian killed his baby mama. True, but I don't think that's her. I really don't. It's tied to Adrian Veidt. Veidt? Osmandius. It's tied to him. Yes, I know, Stanley. We are getting close to 500 subs. It's exciting, quite honestly. And yes, she had a statue of him. Exactly. She had a statue of Osmandius as he was old, not as everyone else remembered him, but as he currently looks. So obviously, he's got some kind of ties to her. And like I said, she's got to be a clone. Well, with that said, when is Red Firm coming? Red Formation? Uh, when is Red Formation coming in? Who knows? Quite honestly. Oh, that's not going to happen. They've already said that Robert Redford has nothing to do with this whatsoever. So yeah, he's not going to be coming aboard. Yeah, they just used it for fun. Unlike the Oprah Winfrey thing in The Handmaid's Tale, that actually was Oprah Winfrey that came aboard and lended her voice to being the president in Canada, I believe it is, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, but yeah, Robert Redford has no plans on coming aboard. I believe he's retired now from acting completely. The Marvel movies were the last thing that he did, and that was it. I do not watch Handmaid's Tale now. I just have again, I've read about it. Again, there's so much stuff that comes across my news feeds of things that I see snippets of things here and there. Yeah. So, with that said, thank you everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. Thank you if you made it this far in the video. And I didn't mean to scare you, Pen. Yeah. If you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see the very end of this video a video pop up here. Basically, what's going to happen is YouTube uses the algorithm of all the stuff that you've been watching, and they try and match that algorithm as best as possible in tone to one of the videos in my video library that matches your stuff that you've been watching, and they'll pop it up there for you. Up here is going to be Saturday Morning Blast Off. That's what's going to be up that side. And if you like what you see there, then you can hit the subscribe button down below. Also hit the like button if you get a chance too. So like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. If you already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go to the bell settings and get as many or as little notifications as you want. If you want to know when I'm really going to be on, because that's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you, you can go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule up there. It's also up on my Facebook page. I also have a Facebook group page, which you guys can join up and see. And then I also have a Twitter, Instagram, and I have a Patreon page, which doesn't have any tiers set as of yet, but we will end up having tiers at the end of this year, beginning of next year. We'll see, Stanley. Usually what ends up happening is that people can end up, once they dislike a, certain aspect of a channel, then it just keeps going on and on. We'll see what happens. So Brandon Omoragiva, there we go. Go to bed. You go to bed first, man. I'm old enough. It's a school night, but yeah, I'm gonna go to bed soon. Thanks everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. Thank you again out there, and I will see you tomorrow for His Dark Materials. Tomorrow's gonna be His Dark Materials. I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, and I'm coming back on Friday for The Mandalorian and Titans. It's a back-to-back Friday as well. Mandalorian and Titans. And then Saturday is Saturday Morning Blast Off. Drop Titans. I'm not dropping Titans more because we're at the end of Titans anyway. I know everyone says drop Titans, but I'm almost done with it. So I'm going to stick with it. All right. I'm really going to let you go this time. Thanks, everybody. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find out that you're really just one of Ozymandias's clones, and you're just there to get him out of trouble. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.